Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Garage Time. Last week we finished up most of the work, I'd say 99% of the work on the front end and fitting of the bumper and the grills and the hood. So I'm really excited about that to be, mostly done. But this week we're going to work on the rear. So this is the rear bumper, and I want to get it mocked up in place to see what kind of modifications that's going to require. I'm tired of this being on the floor. I'm excited to get it on the car. So let's go.
Garage Time.
Now welcome to a whole new view. Now I have the new end to work on. So here's the bumper. It needs to be attached, and before I can attach that, there is a kind of like a reflector panel that was on the 74 that needs to get cut away. But I'm going to open it up and see what's involved. Okay, so here is the reflector panel we're talking about, and I can already see inside here there are some spot welds. Underneath here, I'm not 100% sure. There's a removable panel right here. It looks a little bit rusty, so I need to kind of pull that off, and then I anticipate there's probably going to be more spot welds underneath there. Okay, I got the piece off, and here's what I found. It's like a bird's nest in there. This is the piece that was removed, so I am going to quickly take it outside and clean this out. I'm not sure if there's something dead in there or not, but I'm just going to put it in the trash and get rid of it. I don't know if you can see that on the camera, but there's an egg, like a bird's egg. I'm going to clean back the paint a little bit on this panel where it attaches to the car, so I can see exactly where to hit the spot welds with the drill. And then over here, I thought this was seam sealer, but it looks like it's welded on the edges. So I'm going to have to sacrifice this panel, flanges that go on the inside. So I'm just going to cut through wherever I can to get it off the quickest way. All right, that wire wheel was going a little too slow for me, so I'm going to hit it with some paint stripper. I let the paint stripper work for about 10 minutes, so I'm going to scrape the big stuff off with this just scrap piece of wood, and then I'll use the grinder to clean it up. So there are the spot welds revealed, and I didn't do a super duper good job of cleaning, but you can see each one. So I'm going to center punch each hole and then drill it out with the spot weld cutter, just like I did on the front of the car. Because the shape of this part is kind of getting in the way of my drill, I'm going to cut it with the plasma cutter and just get it out of the way. Okay, I've cleaned up some of the surface rust on the back of this panel that was just removed. I did a little bit here in the corners, but not to disturb the lead. I'll have to deal with that in a little bit. Here it is on this side too. So I wanted to trial fit the bumper cover and sort of realized that this is not gonna fit. This bumper has the bumper cover, I should say. This is very little. of a bumper, but it has these frame extensions which attach on a earlier car. It would attach right to the engine compartment shelf or the back of the chassis. But because this is an impact bumper car, we have these big brackets. There's some big brackets hanging down where normally this is where the impact shock goes, and from here down is all 74 and later. And so normally these two mounting holes would attach to the bottom of the car, but because these impact bumpers are here, all this extra metal has been added. And this is pretty heavy duty metal, kind of like what was on the front. And on the front, I removed it. So on the back, I have a choice. Should I just remove this fiberglass piece and attach the bumper cover just here underneath the turn signal housing and along the side of the car? There's holes along the side where I could attach it to. I think that's what the previous person did. Attached it both here and here. So I have a decision to make. So it's going to be difficult to remove, but I think in the long run that's the best choice, because I can do a better job attaching the bumper using the mounting holes that are provided. It'll reduce the weight significantly. On this side, there's even more parts that need to get removed. So everything from here down is in the way. So you can see some seam welds here on the top, all the way along the bottom there. Then there's a gusset. There's a gusset there on this side, which is just going to be going along for the ride. The trouble with cutting this out is that we don't want to disturb the sheet metal portion of the car. So the heavy gauge metal, when you cut through it, it's easy to overdo it and cut into the actual metal that we want to keep. So probably the best thing to do is to take most of it off, 90% of it off with the plasma cutter, and then take the rest off with a grinder. But before I do that, I'm going to remove some of these old brackets and clean it up a little bit and try to strip some of the paint off, because the plasma cutter is just going to make a smoky mess out of this. I had a little fire. This rubber seal right here just, caught on fire, which, is my fault. I definitely should have just taken it off. No big deal. I tried to, you probably saw in the video, I tried to use my fire extinguisher and it was not working. It didn't do anything. It's just empty. So definitely get a new fire extinguisher, and if you're doing this at home, make sure you have a good one. Okay, this is what I'm left with after the first pass and a big giant whack with the hammer. There are some welds up high, and I think, there's several layers sandwiched here, but I think I'm gonna cut those welds on the top and try to take this outer piece off and then leave the piece that's behind there. Here's a look from the underside. All that was removed from here and down. So just on the other side of this is that seal channel, which holds the rubber, which I caught on fire. So I'm going to clean up that edge, and I'm going to leave this portion here. I don't think this was in a 73. This is a reinforcement piece. It's above where the bumper's going to attach. So I see no harm in leaving that piece there. But I will clean the bottom edge so it looks even with this original chassis edge. And leave the seal channel on the other side. And then over here, I cut through this gusset area, and I'm going to remove all of this from the spot welds all the way up here. So that'll be kind of the next step. And then, like I said, this piece from here, this piece, I'm just going to take it completely off. So I'll be left with the panel that starts from here, goes all the way down, it wraps underneath, and goes all the way back. And that's a piece that's not going to cause any interference with the bumper, and it'll actually give something to bolt the bumper to. Either I can tap and thread it or put a rib nut on the other side of it. Okay, here's the driver's side all cleaned up. I have this flange here is mostly even with the rest of the car. There's a little bit of additional work to do here. This got a little bit mangled as I was pulling some of the thicker pieces off, but there's just a few holes here to weld up. This corner can be smoothed out, but this looks pretty smooth. You can kind of look through here. All right, the bumper is in place. It's just held up with some jack stands and some, piles of wood. You can see that the attachment is all the way up to the frame where I removed the impact bumper brackets. But something's seriously wrong because this sticks out, way too far. This bumper is way too wide for this car. You can kind of get an idea. It also has a pretty large distance between here and here, which I need to do some more research on a 73 to find out how much space there should be right there. And then coming around to this side, same problem. This is for a much wider car. I'm not sure what car this would be for because I didn't think they were that different here at the taillights. So this is disappointing. This fit is horrible. The thing I don't understand is that this was painted and came off of a car. So I don't know what car this came off of. I don't think it was a short wheelbase because that would not be any wider than this car. It could have been for an SC or a 964, but I just didn't think the taillight width was that different. So this is going to require some research. All right, I just measured how far off this bumper is, and it's about 2.5 inches on this side and about 3 inches on the other side. And there is some flex to this, but actually there's not enough. I mean, not enough flex to just force it into position. So this is something that's going to have to be dealt with. I had the same problem on the front. So the front's a little bit too wide. I talked about sectioning it. Probably I'm going to have to do that. And definitely going to have to do it on the back. So if I cut this into 3 pieces, then that'll give me the freedom to position this as I need to. I was going to make some custom bumperettes anyways out of metal, so they didn't look so molded like that. And then I may choose to either keep the center section fiberglass or go with a metal center fiberglass, the factory stamped piece. I like the idea of metal right here where where the exhaust is, because there's a lot of heat. I'd have to put a heat shield behind this probably anyways. So this is pretty, unfortunately this is pretty typical in building a hot rod. When you're not using factory parts, nothing fits. Okay, I've done a tad more research and printed out some pictures as to what to do from here. So this is a factory original rear bumper. This is the left side shown, just the corner portion. It does have a big bracket here to attach the center panel and also that rear bumperette. This is a view from the inside, and this is that bracket. So my fiberglass bumper has a very similar bracket on the inside, and then this just wraps around bumperette piece. And then here is a picture of a car, and it shows the relationship of this distance. So the panel that I cut all the spot welds out was right here. And this corner is pretty exposed, and it's finished. It's metal finish, so it's all smooth. So I have some metal work to do on that. This is a view of a 73 shows where the bumper ends and where the bumperette starts. And there's also a picture here of a seal channel, kind of like I built for the front. There should be a deck lid seal, and that's where that seal resides. It's on top of the sheet metal center panel. Here is a view of kind of the relationship and the height distance between the rear taillight and the height of the bumperette. So I was considering making, either installing the factory bumperettes or making some kind of hot rod similar bumperette myself. And then here is another view kind of showing these corner areas. I was concerned about the corner areas on my car because it's got some open sheet metal. And this has to have sort of a finished look all the way across the back. Okay, so going back to my car, it's this area right here, which was covered up by the bracket that I took off. But there's a couple, this is the lead, and then there's a couple unfinished areas underneath here. So I'm going to have to finish this area, which means removing the lead and smooth, adding a patch panel in there to kind of smooth this section out. So that's one problem. The rest of this looks just like the original 73 that I found those pictures of. On this side, I'm cutting off the whole support because it just doesn't align. In order to get this to fit with the body, this is too far away. So I'm gonna have to cut it and then re-fiberglass it into the correct position. This stuff's pretty amazing. It's been about 10 minutes and it's all crinkled up, ready to go. This is a factory paint, I believe. So it's called Aircraft Stripper. I'll put a link in the description below if you want to buy some. Okay, it's ready for me to strip the lead out of here. I can tell there's not that much, but it needs to go so I can weld on some material here to fill out this corner. So I have a chemical mask. I'm gonna put some wood down and wear some gloves and get it out of the garage as quickly as possible. All right, I'm gonna try this again with the MAP gas. I know it's gonna work better, and I also bought a fire extinguisher in case we catch this on fire again, which is unlikely. I'll look inside and see if there's any wiring or anything back here, but definitely do my best not to have a fire. So I'm gonna gear up and get this out of here. All right, I've just been wire brushing the area that I've melted out, trying to get it as clean as possible. And I try not to use power tools on lead. I just try to keep it as dust free as possible. So I got this all pretty clean. I'll show you close up what I need to do. There's some remnants of the weld that I cut to get this big reflector panel off, and then you can see what the factory did and what I need to do. Okay, you can see here, I removed lead up until about this height right here, and then you can see there's an overlapping seam right here. This is where this quarter panel is welded into the chassis. So it's an overlap, and then it terminates right here. And then right here is where it was welded to that previous panel. And what I want to do is trim down this weld a little bit and then put a new panel so we can smooth this corner out. A little darker over here, but I think you can see that there's a bigger panel gap. All right, so I've had a chance to clean up this corner, and it's not as bad as I thought. Once I removed the old welds, it really has that triangle piece I was talking about making before. It's already there. I just need to bridge that gap. This side's a little bit better. At least the gap's a little bit tighter. So from the top view, you can see this does curve in slightly right here, but I'm just gonna weld this up and then fill it with lead. Unfortunately, that's all the time I have this week for this Porsche RS Tribute build. It's been an interesting week. We had the bird's nest fall out of the back of the car, which kind of freaked me out. And then the thing caught on fire, that seal. I was cutting off that rear bracket and forgot that weather strip seal was there. And then the bumper was like not even close. So the challenges continue. No one said building a hot rod was easy. So thank you for watching. It's been a busy couple days, and we'll see you next week.